Joining me now is New Hampshire Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander. She serves on the House Armed Services and Small Business Committees. So I want to continue this conversation, Congresswoman. You know, in the midst of everything that's going on, what do you make of President Trump's anger at Jeanine Pirro right now over this reflecting pool? I mean, frankly, she's one of his appointees.
Well, Britt, thanks so much for having me. Look, I served for years at the Department of Justice, and unfortunately, every American can see that that department is a shadow of its former self. President Trump has sought to use this department as his own personal law firm. He has rooted out, he's fired, he's pushed out some of the most extraordinary, patriotic, and nonpartisan public servants who I was so proud to work alongside, people who put country above party or any president, people who pursue the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's what the American people deserve. I think what we're seeing here fits into a broader pattern of the president really being hell-bent on controlling the Department of Justice and personally directing cases and investigations. I have been on the receiving end of this, as have so many Americans. This is a waste of taxpayer dollars. This is an abuse of the rule of law, and it's the kind of rank corruption that our country does not need right now.
And I want to ask you about this as well. You know, after saying it was dead, President Trump re-upped his push to really get his anti-weaponization fund passed, which could potentially, keep in mind, compensate January 6 rioters and even give him and his family immunity from the IRS and IRS audits. What do you think about the president's really persistence, I would say, to get this fund approved?
Look, we've really never seen anything like this. This is a $1.8 billion taxpayer-funded slush fund for the president. This is a slush fund that he has made clear he wants to direct these taxpayer dollars towards convicted criminals who assaulted police officers. I mean, I just don't think you can get more un-American than that. He's also seeking to immunize himself, to completely shield himself and his family from basic tax audits. I mean, this fits into a truly unprecedented and really problematic pattern of rank corruption from the President of the United States, who has personally profited more than $2 billion in this job since entering office at a moment when hardworking people across this country are working 2 to 3 jobs and still finding themselves in the red. We deserve a commander-in-chief and a government that's actually going to be serving the public interest. And unfortunately, this episode is one that we've seen. And, you know, the one encouraging thing to say about it, Britt, is that on a bipartisan basis, members of Congress have said hard no to this. You know, it's not often that 84 United States senators agree that something is a bad idea. And in this case, that's what we've seen with this taxpayer-funded slush fund that is really about the president using public power and taxpayer dollars to reward his friends, to self-enrich, and to try to punish his perceived foes. And that's just not what our country needs right now.
And let's not forget the victims, you know, on January 6th, who are really just looking at this as a slap in the face. You know, for the second time in 2 weeks, Congresswoman, President Trump called off strikes on Iran after Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman reportedly urged him to do so to avoid escalation. Trump also announcing that, quote, perimeters of a deal have been agreed to, aiming to bring both sides back to the negotiating table. But how confident are you that this move will actually clear a path forward to end this war once and for all?
Look, Britt, this is deja vu all over again. And the president's unpredictable, chaotic approach has become something that we've all expected and can predict. The president's turnaround, you know, in a matter of hours every day on the objectives of this war have not gotten us any closer to where we need to be getting, which is to solve the crisis that the president has created for the American people who are getting crushed at the gas pump and at the pharmacy and at the grocery store right now as a direct result of this war of choice in Iran. We need serious people with clear objectives and a clear path forward. We need the Strait of Hormuz reopened to alleviate the incredible economic pain and pressure and the inflationary results that have materialized as a direct result of the president's choices. He has brought us no closer to an objective that we all share as Americans. No one wants to see this Iranian regime get a nuclear weapon. But unfortunately, what we've seen day after day is the president failing to bring a close to this war and to put the American people in a better position. Meanwhile, we've lost 18 patriots in this war, and the least transparent Pentagon in American history has tried to fudge the numbers. That is an insult to everyone who has worn the uniform, and the family members, the loved ones, and the patriots who gave their lives in this war deserve better.
And that's what I was going to ask you next. What do you think about the fudging of those numbers? And I believe it went down from 18 to 14, and the impact on families. You touched on it a little bit, but have you talked to any families? I mean, what's the sentiment there?
Look, we have the greatest military in the history of the world, and I am amazed every day and grateful every day for the men and women in uniform who literally put their lives on the line for each and every one of us. It's a sacred trust and it's a sacred obligation that we owe them and their family members. For this Pentagon and this president to fudge the numbers and not be honest with the American people, that is the bedrock promise we make to one another as Americans, to be honest, to be forthright, not to fudge the numbers. This is outrageous, and on a bipartisan basis, we are going to push for the transparency and accountability that the American people deserve. But above all, this decision to unilaterally wage a war of choice that has put tens of thousands of American service members in harm's way, including right now as we speak. There are no more consequential decisions that could be made, and this president he owes the American people deserve a clear answer on how he's going to end this war and how he's going to leave us in a better position than when it started, given all of the sacrifice and all of the costs that have been borne by so many Americans.
And something else I just want to point out what the Pentagon is saying about those numbers. They're justifying it by saying the decision of Operation Epic Fury has ended, and so that is, in fact, justifying the decision to put these numbers in an entirely different database and system. I want to ask you about this headline. The water systems in at least 7 states, including Georgia and Michigan and Minnesota, have been the targets of recent cyber attacks. Federal officials saying Iran is the leading culprit here. President Trump claiming, without evidence, of course, that Democratic officials are to blame for the cyber attack in Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz weighing in, dismissing this accusation, saying, quote, Trump knows exactly who is responsible, and it further illustrates there's no plan to win a war with Iran. So how does the president's scapegoating of his political enemies really just undermine public confidence that the administration is doing everything it can to protect us, to protect our country?
Look, no American should have to wonder whether the president of the United States is going to throw a governor under the bus to score political points and to evade accountability for a serious set of cyber attacks that have put our infrastructure and our people at risk. This is a time for transparency. It's a time for accountability. It's a time to be working together with the United States Congress to make sure that we can rebuild our cybersecurity workforce and infrastructure, which this president cut from day one in office. What we've seen has been a systematic assault. I served for 11 years in our intelligence community as a naval intelligence officer. And when you take a look at what's left of our workforce, it's a shadow of its former self. And that is having real and direct consequences for the safety and security of the American people. This is a time to actually solve the root problem and to be clear about who the culprits are. And this is frankly unbefitting of any president of the United States. This is no way to act in a time of actual crisis.
And it's just scary to think about that sort of structural vulnerability. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us here today and touching on a range of different topics. It's always good to see you and get your perspective.